cake. Happy birthday, 70th anniversary KVOA.
Yes, so we
Stay tuned for the special.
Yes, a 1 hour special.
Happy 70th anniversary.
The following is a special presentation from News 4 Tucson. Do not adjust your set. Just settle back and get ready to go back, way back, and watch 7 decades of KVOA and Tucson history. This is the KVOA 70th Anniversary Special.
Still going strong after 7 decades, and KVOA News 4 Tucson is still a trailblazing force in the broadcasting industry.
And we are celebrating our 70-year anniversary right here with you. Thank you for joining us on this special journey. I'm Monica Garcia.
And I'm Sean Mooney. You know, Monica, News 4 Tucson has covered all the big moments nationally and here locally. Stories you may remember, like the Pied Piper of Tucson, a story that caught national attention. Or the downtown streets of Tucson, where 29 people died in the Pioneer Hotel fire.
And you can't forget watching the U of A men's basketball team just dominate, as you see right here on the court. This was back in 1997, if you remember, bringing home that national championship. All of it part of our efforts to make sure you don't miss those unforgettable moments.
Now, throughout this special 70th anniversary broadcast, KVOA is walking with you, going step by step as we take a look at major moments in the country's history, Arizona's history, Tucson's history.
Making us here at News 4 Tucson live up to our call letters, KVOA, or the Voice of Arizona.
We have certainly come a long way. KVOA now has a bigger newsroom and a highly advanced studio.
But just like any other successful company, our humble beginnings started with really good people who had an even greater vision.
They sure did. News 4 Tucson's Chorus Nylander takes us back to the early days as part of our series Through the Years.
This is where it all started. This building sure has grown a lot over the decades, not even recognizable from when things began here in 1953. Television was a new frontier, and KVOA was an important piece of that history. By the start of 1953, long-running radio station KVOA was gearing up to launch Tucson's second TV station, a bold adventure into the new age that came true that September. Things looked a lot different back then. The station a lot smaller, news written on typewriters, the gear and gizmos a lot less sophisticated, but the mission all the same, to bring important information to residents across southern Arizona. One of the station's first slogans, the eyes of Tucson. But those eyes weren't nearly as easy as today to get outside the studio.
There was virtually no film unless it was occurring in the studio because the cameras were ginormous.
Barbara Lawal, one of the station's notable alumni.
It is so much fun to look back on things and see where we used to be and where we are now.
By the mid-50s, KVOA made Tucson history as the first TV station to broadcast in color. The station changed ownership a few times, and then in 1958 was separated from its radio sibling, left to forge its own way in a fast-evolving TV market. The world evolving outside, getting ready to go from a seemingly more posh and innocent 50s to a new era, the cultural evolution that was the 60s. KVOA would be in the middle of it, and plenty of new challenges and milestones ahead.
And challenges indeed. Thank you, Chorus. You know, Monica, I think evolution is the key word here. I mean, going from radio to television was a huge deal.
You're right, and then the cell phones took over. We'll talk a little bit more about the shifting with technology in just a bit, but first, as we make progress, KVOA works tirelessly to bring you the newest and latest information. Unfortunately, not all news is good news, and even sometimes it's dark, but it's all part of our history. Robbie Reynolds shares some of the big local stories that may have captured your attention.
So many major events have happened here in southern Arizona. Even back in the 1960s, there was a gruesome crime spree that captured the attention of national media throughout the country, while Tucsonans lived through it here at home. Charles Schmidt was a Tucson native who came to be known as
Pied Piper of Tucson by Life magazine because of his ability to lure teenagers into doing things with him and keeping his secrets.
Lisa Espich is the daughter of Richard Bruns, a friend of Schmid who turned him into police and later wrote a book on the crimes. Between 1964 and 1965, Schmid murdered 3 women. He was found guilty in 1966. The trial was not only covered by KVOA, but the likes of Life, Playboy, and Time magazine on a national level. The Pied Piper story ended in prison.
Schmid was stabbed by 2 inmates 47 times. He later died from his injuries.
Pioneer Fire obviously was probably the most consequential tragedies that ever happened in Tucson.
The 1970 fire took one of Tucson's prized possessions and nearly destroyed it. The Pioneer Hotel was a popular high-rise building then. 29 people were killed in the flames. At the time, Howard Weiss was the assistant city manager for public information.
Heard all the sirens going and looked downtown and saw smoke and orange color, flames. And I said, this might be the Pioneer, I better check it out. So I walked the 4 blocks to Stone Avenue, turned the corner and saw the Pioneer in flames.
Also at the scene that day was former KVOA reporter Iola Johnson.
It still gives me goosebumps till this day. The sign at the Pioneer was still operating, and it was Hotel Pioneer, and it read what was left showing Hot Pion. I get goosebumps when I think about it.
Lewis Taylor was arrested for the fire and spent 40 years in prison before he was released in 2013 on a no-contest plea deal. The controversy over his exoneration is still in court today. At the Pioneer Hotel, Robbie Reynolds, News 4 Tucson.
I grew up here, and I definitely remember that story. It rocks Tucson. Well, we are constantly moving and shifting to adapt with the times.
Yeah, so change is happening daily, just like our weekly forecast.
And just like our news, we want our weather to be spot on. Right, Matt?
We do our best to keep it spot on for you. That's right. KVOA has been giving Southern Arizona the most accurate forecast since 1953. Guys, that's 7 years before the world's first weather satellite was even launched into space in 1960. We've had a lot of people delivering Southern Arizona's forecast in the past 70 years, and the forecast has been improving ever since. Check it out.
Whoopee.
Whoopee.
KVOA is celebrating 70 years of weather. Michael Goodrich is likely the best-known personality to deliver the weather at KVOA on the station's airways for decades, but he's just one of many who helped blaze a trail of leading weather teams all across Southern Arizona.
Poor people in the north-central United States.
Few may remember, but it was actually Hank Hubbard who began the tradition doing both news and weather when the lights were first turned on in the station in 1953. With the day's technology, presenting the forecast was oftentimes more challenging than predicting the weather itself.
Michael, it's one of those days.
Let's talk about why. Much later, look at the what? What?
Even though the weather was presented in a very simple way.
If you wanted sunshine on the board, and there goes the magnet, you know, bingo, it's on the board.
Sometimes the magnets were getting weak and the sun over Chicago would fall down to New Orleans, and while you're on the air, you'd have to push it back up.
It was the Stone Age.
But technology would continue to evolve, and with it came better tools to track the weather.
We had one radar picture that came across at about 11 o'clock in the morning. That was all we had.
And oftentimes, the best way to get a forecast was
you looked out the window.
Even though tracking the weather was serious business, one thing has remained the same through the years. We've always had fun.
Ice Break 2014.
The water is cresting over the sides over there where you see the homes.
But when major weather events impacted Southern Arizona, KVOA has always had you covered. From the largest snowfall in 1971.
We had 6.8 inches of snow downtown. And they closed Tucson International because the snowplows were up on Mount Lemmon.
To the historic floods of 1983.
That was wild. It just kind of crumbled, slowly dropped into the river. I was there all weekend, like 24 hours. But for the most part, I was on the air the whole time.
To the unrelenting summer heat.
The summers here have really, they just drag on.
Lang is right. In the past decade alone, 7 of the past 10 summers are among the all-time hottest. And all the other major weather makers across the Sonoran Desert. KVOA has been the weather authority of southern Arizona for the past 70 years and will be for the next 70 and beyond.
The Forewarned Storm Alert team, the monsoon team you can count on.
Great memories there, and I got to say, maybe 70 years from now, we'll be giving you the weather from Mars. Who knows?
Maybe.
Hello, Tucson. Joe Domlin here, KVOA alum, 1988 to 1997, which was the year the Cats won the NCAA basketball tournament. I was honored to cover that, something I'll always remember. A fantastic station, a legacy station in a great market celebrating 70 years. To everyone at KVOA and in Tucson, my wife Kathy Ryan and I send you all the best from Chicago. Thank you for all the great memories.
On now at Sam Levitt's, don't miss special price rollbacks on hundreds of items store-wide. We've got the lowest prices in Tucson. Plus, a special limited time offer. Save the sales tax or choose 24 months no interest. We're rolling back prices on bedrooms, living rooms, mattresses, and more. Plus, get free delivery to your room. Shop local and save big at Sam Levitt's with special price rollbacks on now.
Going on now, it's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Bag a great deal on a new 2023 Ram 1500 with $12,000 off, or get 3.9% for 60 months, plus $6,000 off on new 2023 F-150s. And get a minimum of $3,000 when you trade in your vehicle. And every test drive gets a bag of last-minute school supplies. It's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Shop JimClick.com now.
If you're looking for a dental office where you can feel comfortable and confident in the providers and the team, then that would be us.
Before we go into the patient's mouth, we can find out the information. I feel very comfortable and confident about our expertise, our knowledge.
It was like I got my personality back.
This is the best thing I've done for me.
The end state is going to be perfect.
Call today for a free consultation.
Well, we've reached the 1960s, a period of major change in our country. Like always, Tucsonans adjusted with the times. As Chorus Nylander shows us, News 4 Tucson had to make adjustments too.
The 60s began with KVOA once again changing hands, soon followed by a major station expansion in 1963. The same building where KVOA still stands today, although many more expansions would follow.
What I remember more than anything else was the camaraderie.
Barbara Lawal worked at KVOA as a news editor from 1965 to 67. If she seems familiar to you, it may be because she went on to be the Pima County attorney for more than 20 years. Much of her drive ripened here within these walls around the age of 19.
Just being in that mix, being in the what's happening right now, that happened at Channel 4, and it was repeated when I was in the county attorney's office.
The biggest story at the time, Vietnam protests across town and at the University of Arizona.
That's pretty definitive for me. I remember that very vividly.
The ways of gathering news back then were quite different.
We had typewriters. We had Polaroid cameras that were given to us when we had to go out in the field and take a picture of something.
And there was still a way to go for the advancement of women within the newsroom.
I don't see myself as somebody who broke the glass ceiling here because when I wanted an evening news slot which came open, they wouldn't hire me to do that. In fact, I was told that women weren't allowed to work past 6 o'clock in the evening because, quote, it was unsafe.
What was to come would be a golden era for the station.
It was exciting. It was really exciting.
I think that's how it became number one, because of the people that helped build it.
And the 60s sure did have some pivotal moments that really shaped the nation.
It was quite a decade, and as Cora said, one of those was the advancement of women, especially in the newsroom.
In those early years, we had some pretty amazing journalists who helped build the foundations of where you and I stand today.
Absolutely. In 1953, we hit the air with some pretty simple goals. Be number one when it comes to delivering the news, and hopefully become difference makers in our community and our profession.
And two reporters did just that. In 1970, U of A graduate Iola Johnson landed a job at her hometown TV station. She was Tucson's first African-American reporter and anchor. With confidence and determination, she proved she had what it took to make it in this business.
Women were not allowed in the building after 6 p.m. for their own safety, I'm assuming. And our news director was our 6 and 10 o'clock anchor, and he liked my writing so much that he asked me to write for the 10 o'clock news, which meant that we broke down a barrier for women.
Also, Sue Green was one of the first female broadcasters in the market, starting in 1965. Women didn't have the same credibility that male broadcasters did, so Sue was left with the Women's Report, which was 15 minutes of not hard news, but didn't stop Sue. She kept grinding and doing her light news segments and live on-air commercials.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. I felt extremely lucky to have an opportunity like that.
Sue later got the chance to do hard news at another station in Tucson. We want to thank her and Iola for not being afraid to be the first and paving the way for future female broadcasters to come. We've had many great news anchors on KVOA's airwaves, but when it comes to longevity and the ability to capture a community's attention night after night, none compare to Patty Weiss. Patty was the first woman in Arizona to anchor nightly newscasts, and she did it for nearly 3 decades.
Well, you can visit the Solar Oasis at Phoenix Civic Plaza all summer long, but I can't guarantee you'll see Marlon Brando there.
One of the things that made me, I think, popular with viewers is that I was speaking to them. I found that if I talked to a person inside that lens, it was better than talking to an audience. And it worked.
That approach to delivering news worked for 30 years. Actually, growing up in Tucson helped too, attending Palo Verde High School and the University of Arizona. Patty got her start in television at another local station in town, anchoring a morning show. Soon after, making history by becoming the first woman to anchor an evening newscast in Arizona, a move that came with some trepidation.
The first time we did that show, I could hear the phones going in the newsroom, and they're all through this 5 o'clock show, ringing off, and I thought, oh, they're all telling me get off there. But they weren't. They were saying, this is great. And it was wonderful.
Patty would then make a stop in San Diego, anchoring there for 2 years before coming back to Tucson. Hired by KVOA shortly after in 1975, she quickly became the most watched anchor in her hometown.
KVOA Television Tucson.
When I had just arrived at Channel 4, KVOA, we were at number 3. And by the time they put me on the evening, we went to number 1. And for the next 30 years, we stayed number 1 on all of my newscasts.
The list of impactful stories Patty covered over the years is endless. And after 3 decades and thousands of newscasts, Patty left KVOA in 2005. She and her husband, Alan Gellenberg, eventually left Tucson, moving to Madison, Wisconsin, and Hershey, Pennsylvania, before finding a new home in the Pacific Northwest.
And I have 2 grandchildren here in Seattle, 2 others in Colorado, in Denver. And so I see that. We've got kids, we've got lots of things going on. And I do a lot of walking. You know, we're just keeping ourselves healthy.
Patty says life is good now, but she will never forget those magical years in Tucson.
We had a wonderful staff of people. I don't know. I just thought there must have been some magic somewhere. And that only happens when people trust you. And that was so nice.
Isn't that the truth? Wow, yeah. Patty was such a trailblazer.
Absolutely. Earning the public's trust year after year and What a career she had. Now let's celebrate covering 70 years of sports.
All right, from Arizona running back Art Lupino's success in the 1950s to U of A's baseball's first World Series title in 1976. KVOA was there through it all.
Yes, we were. News 4 Tucson's Jenna Fink looks back on the memorable moments in the 70s and 80s.
We'll pick things up in 1978 when Trailblazer Ron Brooks joined KVOA. He was the first black full-time sports anchor in Arizona history.
Well, I brought a different style because I believed in taking part with all of my reporting.
Whether it was playing catch with the star high school quarterback or boxing with Muhammad Ali, Ron Brooks was all in on covering Southern Arizona sports.
College basketball was probably the most popular back then, and it probably still is.
Some things never change. Ron covered the Fred Snowden era. He was the first black basketball head coach at a major university.
So we were two trailblazers, so go out to interview him was just a real kick.
Baseball was also big. The Cleveland Indians held spring training in Tucson at the time. Ron met some of the best in baseball, including Hank Aaron.
I interviewed him the year he was getting ready to break Babe Ruth's all-time record.
Editing those interviews was a bit different than it is now.
When I started, we worked with nothing but film. And we had to cut the film, edit the film, splice the film together.
By the end of Ron's time at KVOA in 1982, he could go live from the field. That wasn't too common at the time.
Back then, KVOA had one of the most modern newsrooms in the country.
Pete Delgado joined KVOA as a sports producer in 1984. It was his first of 3 stints over 9 years.
That was Lute Olson's second year there. Larry Smith was the football coach.
Pete covered some of the biggest moments in Arizona sports history. One of them, Chuck Cecil's 106-yard pick six in the 1986 Territorial Cup.
The stadium nearly fell down, nearly fell down on that play.
And filming Arizona basketball practice was as easy as...
I would walk in unannounced with a camera, walk onto the floor at McHale Center. Lute Olson would see me and go, "What do you need?" And I go, "Well, can I talk to Eddie Smith and Pete Williams and maybe that new kid, Steve Kerr?" And it would be, sure.
Pete left KVOA in 1986, and let's just say that open-door practice policy changed when he came back in 1989. We'll have more on Pete as we cover the 90s and 2000s on part 2 of our series. Reporting at McHale Center, Jenna Fink, News 4 Tucson.
Oh.
Thank you, Jenna, and boy, did we have some great moments in sports in the 90s.
Yeah, no doubt. Jenna's going to cover more memorable events to come in sports.
Happy 70th anniversary, KVOA.
Southern Arizona's most experienced, most trusted meteorologist, Jimmy Stewart.
Now we can show you exactly what's coming, when and where, like you've never seen it before.
Keep your home team safe and remove the risk. Go to fda.gov/health-playbook.
We wanted to be able to enjoy all 4 seasons, and patio enclosures helped us make that dream come true.
The one and only patio enclosures.
Going on now, it's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Bag a great deal on a new 2023 Ram 1500 with $12,000 off, or get 3.9% for 60 months, plus $6,000 off on new 2023 F-150s. And get a minimum of $3,000 when you trade in your vehicle. And every test drive gets a bag of last-minute school supplies. It's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Shop JimClick.com now.
A lot of lawyers love to claim they only get paid if they win, but what are they not telling you? That the fine print of their contract says they get paid even if they get fired.
At the Husband and Wife Law Team, we only get paid when we win, and we put that promise in writing.
The lawyer you hire does matter.
It's been a long road to the finale. America has voted.
Unbelievable. I'm speechless.
It's fantastic. It was one of my favorites.
The winner is...
The first ever People's Choice Country Awards. Hosted by Little Big Town with performances from some of your favorite artists. Plus, your country champion and Icon Award winner. The People's Choice Country Awards. Live Thursday on NBC and Peacock.
In the 1970s, KVOA went from an upstart to a trusted local news leader. News 4 Tucson's Chorus Nylander breaks it all down for us.
I'm going back to Tucson. They've got so much to see there.
In the 70s, Tucson continued to grow, as did its popularity as the gem of the Southwest. KVOA grew with it. By 1973, another major ownership shakeup. This time, a group of prominent Tucson businessmen would become the new owners, making it the only locally owned station. Among them, Don Diamond, Jack Gumben, Richard Block, and Donald Pitt.
We served the community well. We were way on top of the ratings.
Pitt is now 93 years old, the only one of them still alive. He has many memories here. He says he's most proud of
putting together a good team. Would probably be our biggest contribution.
Eyewitness News at 10. A complete report with Patty Weiss, Michael Goodrich with the weather, Ron Brooks on sports.
What followed were many legends like Patty Weiss, our Lupita Murillo, and General Manager John Ruby.
That was one of Dad's favorite pictures. I think he used it for all of his communications for a while.
Ruby has passed away. Samantha Ruby is his daughter.
Wow. I haven't been here forever.
She pretty much grew up here at the station as her dad turned it into a respected news leader.
This was his happy place, was to be in this pit area. He just loved the energy that was in a newsroom.
The people in front of the cameras are extremely visible. We're real proud of them.
Her father would go on to lead the team for decades to come, and as they entered the 1980s, some more big changes on the way.
It was jarring for a lot of people just because it was so different.
KVOA's leadership really always knew how to build a great team. Lots of well-known news personalities used to work here long before making names for themselves at networks. People like Lou Waters. He began here as a station announcer and would become one of the 8 original anchors at CNN. His name would become known around the world, but he never forgot the city that he calls home.
This is an unusual interview for me with you because
64 years after his start in broadcasting, Lou Waters is once again in front of a microphone with his podcast, What Have You Learned? During those more than 6 decades, Lou Waters learned a lot.
My whole career has been about opportunities, and I've been blessed by them, and I've moved on them.
Lou spent the first 13 years of his career as a disc jockey at stations around the country, but it was the opportunity to start a station from the ground up that first brought him to Tucson.
This is KWFM 92.9.
Tucson's first FM station, KWFM. We put that on the air.
And it wasn't long before the next opportunity came along, a chance to work at KVOA.
And this is in 1970. I went to KVOA and became a booth announcer. I went from that to asking to learn what they do in the news department. And they gave me the Oricon camera.
Lou didn't stay behind the camera for long, not only shooting but also reporting stories, eventually becoming an anchor. Soon other opportunities would come along, away from Tucson. In 1977, his connection to KVOA would bring him back, this time as the station's news director.
Talent was Michael Goodrich, the weatherman. Hank Hubbard was there. Patty Weiss, of course. So I had a lot of good people.
Lou also spent time on the anchor desk, but after 2 years, he was lured away to another station in Tucson, where he would get his big break. When his reports of a tragic crash of an Air Force jet near the University of Arizona got national attention. After turning down an offer from New York, a new upstart news network would eventually come calling, CNN.
Police in New England still are searching for masked gunmen who hijacked an armored car.
No guarantee of success, very low pay, long hours. I said, sounds perfect. So I was one of the original 8 anchors, and that's how it happened.
CNN strives to bring that whole broad story into perspective.
For the next 21 years, Lou would anchor CNN Today in early prime.
Let's get some legal analysis of all this now and call on our CNN analyst.
When he stepped away from the anchor desk, it was Tucson where he wanted to be.
This is the place. Always came back here.
But Lou didn't come back to retire. Settling in Oro Valley, he was persuaded to run for the city council and even became vice mayor.
Hello, I'm Lou Waters, vice mayor of the town of Oro Valley.
Now he devotes his time to his podcast and his lifelong passion, photography. And after all these years, still connected to KVOA.
KVOA has always been like the home station, not only for me, but for the others who I described as long time or original parts of this population.
Oh, well, Lou is definitely an original, one of the biggest names when it comes to Tucson journalists.
Yeah.
But when it comes to longevity, devotion to our community, few compare to Lupita Murillo.
That is absolutely right. Lupita is one of the long runners here at KVOA. She's a staple on our television screens and has been for decades.
This has been my home for 45 years. People here have been my family.
That family includes countless co-workers and a community that embraced her from the time she arrived in Tucson in 1978.
When I got the job, I thought, okay, I'm only going to be here 2 years. That's it. 2 years, then I'm going to go back to Texas, because that was my ultimate goal, was to go back home to Texas.
At the time, she had no idea that what she thought would be a short stint would last beyond 4 decades. She became the station's go-to crime reporter, along the way covering stories that attracted national attention, including the Vicki Lynn Hoskins abduction and murder in 1984, the Gary Triano bombing murder in 1996, the mass shooting at the U of A School of Nursing in 2002 that left 4 dead, the January 8th shooting where 6 people died and left Gabrielle Gifford severely injured, as well as the murders of Isabel Celis in 2012 and Mirabel Gonzalez in 2014.
It's been 1,000 days since Isabel Celis disappeared.
And countless other stories. Lupita has covered them all. After so many years, understanding why crime has been her beat.
I guess I was good at it, and I still am. Because here I am 45 years later, still covering the crime beat and thoroughly enjoying it.
During her more than 4 decades in Tucson, she has been embraced by the entire community, not only for her reporting skills, but also for her tireless work with numerous charities.
I want to make this community better. And if I can spend my time at the AIDS Walk, at Treasures for Tijan, Boys and Girls Club, if I can do that to make this a better place, count me in, I'm there.
After initially not planning on sticking around for long, Lupita Murillo found a home and a community she will always be grateful for.
I'm thankful that I've had a wonderful career and that it's lasted 45 years, and that you, the community, has invited me in on a daily basis for years so that you could hear what's going on in your community. And I thank you for that.
Lupita is KVOA, and we're glad Lupita is still a journalistic force in our community, committed to holding officials accountable and giving you the unvarnished truth.
I am so proud to have spent 30 years on the air with KVOA, and I'm even more delighted that all of these years have gone by in the entire community. 70 years, can you believe it? What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity it has been for everybody who's been on the air at KVOA and everybody who has watched KVOA. Congratulations.
On air and online, KVOA.com, investigating for you.
If you're looking for a dental office where you can feel comfortable and confident in the providers and the team, then that would be us.
Before we go into the patient's mouth, we can find out the information. I feel very comfortable and confident about our expertise, our knowledge.
It was like I got my personality back.
This is the best thing I've done for me.
The end state is going to be perfect.
Call today for a free consultation.
Got a tip for the News 4 Tucson investigators? Email investigators@kvoa.com or call 955-4444.
It's complete, it's caring, it is thorough. That's how Tucson knew KVOA. A reputation the station embraced in the 80s as it was getting comfortable as the community's news leader. Now, the station was sold in 1982, and during that transition, there was never any erosion in the community's trust in KVOA. At the helm of KVOA then was General Manager John Ruby.
He put his blood, sweat, and tears into this to make it an amazing station that the community trusted.
KVOA remained a solid force in the marketplace, even with cable TV news coming onto the scene in the 80s. KVOA became the first station in Tucson to broadcast in stereo and to have closed captioning.
How will you know what will happen today?
I like Michael Goodrich.
I guess that's one for Michael.
Lisa's a professional newscaster. She comes across well.
Oh, that's one.
Can you find your tongue?
He's the best in the city of Tucson.
Okay, here's one for Michael.
Oh, that's two. You never were very good with numbers. How will you know? Lisa Conze, Michael Goodrich, and Eyewitness News at noon on TV4, where the news comes first.
All right, and when it comes to the weather, one of our favorite on-air personalities was, of course, Jimmy Stewart. So where is Jimmy now? Monica sat down with him and got the chance to talk about his contributions to the weather and the entire KVOA team.
You know Jimmy, and Jimmy knows the weather. But how well do we know Jimmy Stewart, former News 4 Tucson chief meteorologist, now?
It seems like it was yesterday, but it seems like it was forever.
We're looking at sunny skies pretty much statewide today.
If you watch the morning news between 1980 to 2011, chances are you relied on Jimmy Stewart's weather forecast to get you out the door.
We're expecting 89 here in Tucson.
But before he was your local source for forewarned weather.
I grew up on a farm in Illinois.
He was Jimmy, the disc jockey in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
I never dreamed I would go into radio and television.
His first official on-air gig in 1961. And then weather came calling, and he enrolled in the University of Arizona.
The coming of meteorology and meteorologists on television was coming, although there weren't any in Tucson yet.
With a degree in atmospheric physics, Jimmy became Tucson's first and only meteorologist in the years following.
Temperature-wise, we're running above normal.
Working alongside other household names like Kathy Ryan on KVOA's Eyewitness News Daybreak. And then nearly 13 years post-retirement, he's taught children science on Jimmy Stewart's weather bus. Then he dabbled in astrophotography.
This one I took at Kid Peak.
Now he only concerns himself with the weather when he wants to play golf.
We play in the morning. It never rains in the morning.
Every now and then, he still gets recognized for his contribution to morning news.
And people ask me why I have a beard now. Or you came to my third grade class and they're like in their mid-50s now. Makes me really feel old.
And let me tell you, Jimmy is loving life. I was so fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to work beside Jimmy and learn so much from him and to call him my friend.
What's Michael doing?
He's trying to come up with a creative way to announce this year's ice break contest.
Oh, you mean the contest where we challenge viewers to correctly predict the exact date and time of Tucson's first 100-degree day?
Right, and this year's winner will be swept away on a Princess Cruise for two to icy Alaska, all courtesy of Bon Voyage Travel for people going places.
You know, if everyone would just watch Eyewitness Weather, it'd sure save Michael a lot of work. Hey, Michael, this is really cool.
Ice Break 91, entered today.
I still love those spots, and why we still have to guess at the heat. One thing that is always predictable, the city of Tucson's love for our sports, especially any sport coming out of the University of Arizona. As Jenna Fink shows us, we've had some great sports anchors and some historic hires along the way.
If you watched KVOA in the late 1980s, you knew the damnedest sports team around.
If it's sports in Tucson, turn to the damnedest sports team in town. Dan Ryan and Dan Hicks on TV4's Eyewitness News.
Before Dan Hicks became the voice of golf on NBC Sports, he had his finger on the pulse of the Tucson community.
Sean Elliott is taking his release from the Olympic basketball team in stride.
Hicks left KVOA in 1989. Pete Delgado came back that year for two more stints, from 1989 to 1992. Then again in 2001, when he worked with Eric Rhodes and Dan Ryan.
Dan was one of the funniest guys I ever met. He was a very, very smart man.
Everywhere we went, people knew who Dan Ryan was.
Ryan was the face of KVOA Sports for 2 decades, from 1987 to 2007.
Dan would challenge us every once in a while to see if we could fit movie quotes into our broadcasts. So one night we did Forrest Gump to see how many quotes we'd sort of fit into sports.
In 1997, Ryan covered one of the biggest sports moments in Tucson history, Arizona men's basketball's national championship.
It's only right, the ball's in his hands, a milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
That was a battle of the Wildcats. Arizona knocked off Kentucky, the defending champs at the time, 84-79 in overtime. In the early 2000s, Arizona football didn't have that same success.
U of A football was a little rough in those days. That was the Makovic days where it was not a lot of wins.
Luckily, other teams made up for that.
Got to go to Omaha and Oklahoma City with baseball and softball. Tremendous trips, tremendous memories.
In 2004, KVOA had another historic hire. Lacey Collins became the first female sports anchor in the station's history.
I was welcomed right away by Dan Ryan, by Eric Rhodes, who was also here.
Lacey says she was respected here in Tucson, not always by professional athletes. She says it helped to have a support system of women at KVOA, like Lupita Murillo, Christy Tedesco, and Patty Weiss.
They all looked out for me, and I think that's a big part of why, I think even being back here, and it's been years, but KVOA is still a family.
Lacey grew up here in Tucson, played several sports at Flowing Wells High School, so covering Arizona athletics was a pinch me moment.
Getting to cover U of A men's basketball at the time of Lute Olson was the best thing ever.
We'll continue to reflect on 70 years of KVOA sports with part 3 of our series. Reporting in the newsroom, Jenna Fink, News 4 Tucson.
And some absolutely great moments in U of A sports history, but you have to remember, Monica, if you're a U of A fan, you have to live with the ups and downs of sports fandom.
Yeah, but talk about the ups. We could have really an entire special on Lute Olson and the 97 championship team.
A dream come true we will never forget.
Happy anniversary, KVOA. What an incredible ride, 70 years, and I am thrilled and honored to have been a small part of it for 8 years. Some of the best 8 years of my life. So thank you.
It's been a long road to the finale. America has voted. Unbelievable. I'm speechless.
It's fantastic. It was one of my favorites.
The winner is...
The first ever People's Choice Country Awards. Hosted by Little Big Town with performances from some of your favorite artists. Plus, your country champion and icon award winner. The People's Choice Country Awards. Live Thursday on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to Home Concepts Custom Remodeling. This is Harry, who has recently trusted us to transform his bathroom into an oasis.
And the entire process was trouble-free. I just can't thank you enough.
Here at Home Concepts, we're small enough to give you that personal family experience, but big enough to service the entire state.
Right now, we're offering no money down, no interest, no payments for 18 months. Plus, mention this ad and you'll get $1,200 off. Call 602-962-8040 for a free consultation.
I just got one thing to say, and that thing is yes. Because yes is my thing, brother. My For the People credit approval process gets everyone approved with as little as $1, $2, $3 down. Because I'm Scott, the Liberator Layman, and I'm a dealer for the people.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Monica, once we reached the 90s, one thing was clear. Change was imminent.
That's right. As the city grew, of course, Nylander tells us, so did our technology and knowledge of navigating this new world.
It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
KVOA entered the 90s, still the market leader, riding the high. General manager John Ruby and team created all the way back in the 70s. Ruby was still leading the team with news director Mick Jensen.
It was a really wonderful time in my life.
Jensen says by the 90s, everything became so different.
When computers became standard equipment, it just changed so many things.
Our current technical media producer, Sherry Meek, says she was brought aboard in the 90s for her knowledge of computers.
A lot of other people in the building who weren't as fluent with computers and basically, had a hard time trying to learn them and had to get on board.
The station again experienced an ownership change, but it did little to deter the station's momentum. In '97, Ruby's daughter Samantha started interning here with big dreams.
So I'd come at like 3 in the morning to rip scripts and do the whole thing because I wanted to be just like Dad when I grew up.
Even though he's gone, she feels a part of him still here at KVOA.
Dad is everywhere. He is loving every second of all the changes and the newness of it all.
This is Eyewitness News at 10.
Some new iconic faces were also introduced, like Today's Show anchor Savannah Guthrie.
We begin with the end of the Olympics.
KVOA took part in several telethons, helping raise money for different community organizations, and along the way, some unexpected moments too. No bowl in 1993, Chief Operations Manager Dave Kerrigan got an unusual assignment to go repossess a buffalo after a client didn't pay their bill.
It didn't occur to me that I'd be handling livestock.
But what was to come in the new century would be the end of an era for the station.
It was a whole new world for him that he just didn't know how to be a part of.
And today, the way we really gather and present news is an ever-evolving world.
It absolutely is. A world that brings in new players.
Al, I'll never forget, you welcomed me when I came on the third hour, and you were the first person to ask me to lunch and be my friend.
We've been following the careers of some of your favorite journalists, and at the top of the list is Savannah Guthrie. For more than a decade, Savannah has been coming into your homes, covering the big stories on the Today Show. Before going national, though, Savannah, a Tucson native, spent several years as an anchor and reporter right here at her hometown TV station.
Comfortable is not where the action is. Comfortable is not where you're going to find out who you really are.
In 1999, Savannah made the life-changing decision to leave home and go to Georgetown Law, where she got her degree in 2002.
And we have another native Tucsonan, Dan Hicks, who graduated from Sabino High and then the University of Arizona before starting his broadcasting career as a sports anchor at KVOA. Always humble, Dan's career would take him across the globe. He's been at NBC Sports more than 30 years and the leading voice on the network's golf telecasts. He's been the voice in major sports moments like Tiger Woods making a putt at the U.S. Open outside of San Diego. And then later, Dan was perched high above an Olympic pool to call history. Michael Phelps winning a record-breaking 8 gold medals at the Beijing Games.
You've got to get a break. You've got to have somebody say, you know what, we're going to give you a shot. And that's why, not only just because I was born and raised there, but that's why Tucson will always have a special place.
Dan Hicks, a Tucsonan at top of his game. Hey, and speaking of games, Sean doesn't miss many either, especially one across the globe.
News 4 Tucson, Sean Mooney joins us live from Sochi. Sean is joining us from Sochi now. There you are. Hello, Sean.
I am the globetrotter of News 4 Tucson. The city of Sochi is quite different than the one that we've heard about in the United States. Pretty awesome. I think that's going to give you some idea. My Russian is a work in progress. Один, два, три. Go Team USA. Can I do weather?
Nah, you got to leave that to Beamish, Broad, and Patrick.
Way to go. Beamish, Roker's got your back.
Good to know. Don't mess with the weather, folks.
Oh, quick hi. Say hi to the folks back there.
Hi, everybody in Tucson.
Here we are in the middle of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, but the sand's a little rough.
Here, go with these, my friend. Lester?
I like your style.
It's a look.
Now, we know it's cold here in Sochi.
We also know it's News 4 Tucson.
KVOA, I can't believe it. Happy 70th anniversary. I cannot wait to come back to Tucson and reunite.
Got a tip? Email the investigators or call 955-4444.
Going on now, it's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Bag a great deal on a new 2023 Ram 1500 with $12,000 off, or get 3.9% for 60 months, plus $6,000 off on new 2023 F-150s. And get a minimum of $3,000 when you trade in your vehicle. And every test drive gets a bag of last-minute school supplies. It's the Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle 96-hour Bag to School event. Shop JimClick.com now.
If you're looking for a dental office where you can feel comfortable and confident in the providers and the team, then that would be us.
Before we go into the patient's mouth, we can find out the information. I feel very comfortable and confident about our expertise, our knowledge.
It was like I got my personality back.
This is the best thing I've done for me.
The end state is going to be perfect.
Call today for a free consultation.
The all-new Tempur-Pedic Breeze makes sleep feel cool and comfortable. So no more sweating all night or blasting the air conditioning, because the Tempur Breeze pulls heat away from your body, so the mattress feels up to 10 degrees cooler all night long. Get up to $300 to spend in-store on items like these. And, as always, mattress delivery is free. Shop today. The best mattress buys are at Sam's Sleep Shop, inside all Sam Levitt stores.
During the 2000s, sports brought a lot of change and many firsts to the old Pueblo. News for Tucson's Jenna Fink breaks it down.
Let's flash back to 2007. Ryan Recker joined KVOA as sports director that year. He covered several firsts here in Tucson.
I saw Accenture Match Play come in 2007, which was the best golfers in the world coming to Marana. Not long after I came, Arizona football made a bowl game for the first time in 10 years. And on that team was Rob Gronkowski.
Ryan says he'll never forget interviewing Gronkowski on the field post-game.
And I said, Rob, you're headed to the Las Vegas Bowl. What are your thoughts right now? And as I asked him that, a fan jumped in and said, blackjack. And he looked at the fan and then looked at me and said, yeah, blackjack.
As only Gronkowski could say. While Ryan covered plenty of firsts, there were also several lasts, like legendary basketball coach Lute Olson's final game.
And that closed an incredible chapter, needless to say, in the history of not just Arizona sports, but college basketball.
He also saw the Diamondbacks, Rockies, and White Sox move their spring training to the Phoenix area, the end of a 60-plus year tradition in the old Pueblo.
There was such a rich tradition and such a connection with Tucson and spring training that there was sadness to see that go.
Ryan left KVOA in 2013, filling his shoes. Paul Cicala back for his second stint at KVOA. The Tucson native and Desert View High grad proud to cover his hometown team.
I think it's a dream for a kid growing up on the south side to go back to the Sunnyside Unified School District, be able to cover a game and realize I was in these kids' position, you know, a couple decades ago, and now, boom, I'm covering the games as a reporter.
Paul brought the energy to every sport he covered, from Friday football fever to Arizona women's basketball's national championship appearance. That's one of his favorite memories. He kept that positivity even through the COVID-19 pandemic.
We weren't able to do stuff from the studio, so I would shoot half of my live shots on top of my roof at my house just so I could get the background of Tucson right behind me.
Whether in studio, out in the field, or on his roof, Paul's passion for our community shined through in his work.
If you would have told me when I was a kid growing up in high school, idolizing people from the U of A, Coach Lute Olson, the whole 9 yards, and if somebody said, hey, you're going to end up covering them and being an anchor for KVOA News 4 Tucson, I wouldn't have believed it.
There have been so many memorable moments over the past 70 years. Here's to covering the next 70 years of sports at KVOA. Reporting at the U of A, Jenna Fink, News 4 Tucson.
And we can't wait. Well, Monica, we've reached the present, and it's crazy to think how far we have come.
It really is, but we've had a hard-working news team here, Sean, and one thing is clear, that we want to continue to bring you the latest breaking news, as Chorus Nylander explains.
The past decade, we've seen a lot of advancements here at KVOA. New, flashier sets, better graphics. We've also seen cell phones and social media become an essential part of daily news gathering.
Rise and shine, you two. It's going to be a beautiful day in Tucson.
KVOA entered 2010 ready for the many changes ahead. A new world with news at everyone's fingertips and more viewing options than ever before.
You know, whether it's TV or
OTT, streaming TV, it's come a long way. Didn't even exist when I started here.
KVOA began adding more hours of news than ever before, a 4 p.m. newscast, weekend newscast, and multiple news set changes. It became clear how important our role is as Tucson saw one of its darkest days, January 8th, 2011. Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords was shot but survived. 6 people were killed.
We'll take you inside this much-anticipated memorial.
The years that followed, KVOA helped contribute to the creation of the Embrace, a memorial honoring the victims of the tragedy. In 2011, KVOA promoted Kathy Batby to news director, who has led the newsroom to this day. As KVOA entered the next decade, the COVID-19 pandemic struck, a situation like the station had never seen before.
We'd do Zoom meetings with clients to get the message out.
You're working in your living room. You didn't really have a home office set up. You didn't have a plan for the home office.
In 2021, our current owners, Allen Media Group, took over the station, and soon after, Peter O'Brien became the general manager. Under his leadership today, KVOA is Southern Arizona's most watched news, much like it was for most of its 70-year history. We couldn't be where we are today without those that came before.
Encouraging that in the time I've been gone to see how well the station has done, how successful it's been.
Just looking at those old pictures, you can see how far we've come and how many changes there are.
An amazing feat. It's an amazing feat for how long it's, had a #1 status. It's an amazing to walk around and see the people that were here when my dad was here. They're still here. They're still committed to being a part of this beautiful station.
And that's where our look through the years comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed going on that journey with us. And here's to many more anniversaries for KVOA's legacy. For News 4 Tucson, I'm Corey Nylander.
70 years is a long time with so many stories to share.
Absolutely, and as much as we have liked to, there was no way we could bring all of them to you tonight in just 1 hour. But we have many more to share, and we hope you head to KVOA.com/70 years for more behind-the-scenes stories from the KVOA vault. Now, believe it or not everything has gone perfectly on our air over the last 70 years.
So we thought we'd share a couple of gems from the KVOA blooper reel with all of you tonight.
So I'm going to hand the microphone over to my buddy Danny here, and go Wildcats.
All right, hey, Paul, get you inside. Enjoy that game. We'll see you back. We'll see you back. Get you inside. Enjoy that game. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much.
This is the small weather system that moved across Arizona last night and kind of gave us a surprise early this morning and then this afternoon with the showers. Let's talk about why. Much later, look at the what? What?
To see if you were looking, Michael.
Now, did that get your attention? As you can see, the satellite has decided that it's going to head and run the ads, but the networks still aren't going to do it.
It got my attention. What an evening. And we want to say thank you so much for joining us at this look back at News 4 Tucson's 70-year journey.
Yeah, well, we sure do. It's been a great honor to be with you all along the way.
And we hope you stay along with us on the ride through the next 70. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.